Hey guys, welcome here. I'm Tetris, and today we're going to be making our very own board games. Now this is a really creative project, so you can do whatever you want with it, but I'll show you the way that I did it, and you can kind of go from there. First, let's go over the materials you found in your box. So, we have one board game. We got a baggie here with 4 little tokens and 2 dice, and you've got 2 things of popcorn. You may also want to keep the box in case you use that for something. Other materials you might need, these are things you're going to have to provide yourself. So pencil crayons, pencils, maybe some markers or pens, anything you need to draw. It's also useful to have a ruler because drawing straight lines is a lot easier that way. Pencil sharpener if you choose to use pencils or pencil crayons. And erasers are great because it's easy to make mistakes on this. So let's get this out of the way. First, you're going to want to come up with the main elements of your game. I would say there's 4 main parts you want to come up with, think creatively and brainstorm. I call those the theme, the goal, the board shape, and then enough of the rules that you kind of have a direction of where you're going. So let's start with the theme. So, the theme can be anything you like. Basically, the point of the theme is what is the game about? So maybe you want to do a game on space or, like the planets. You could also do a game on conquering the world. You could do a game on Stillwood and your favorite parts of Stillwood, or you could do a game on maybe your favorite movie or book or video game. Basically anything you want, just think of what is the main design, the main idea behind this game. Second, you want to figure out the goal of the game. What are the players trying to achieve? You might think they're trying to get the most money, or they're trying to be the first person to the end of the path. You could also say you're trying to get the most land covered on the map in your color. There's lots of different ideas, and I'm sure you can look at different board games that you've played before, or even look on the internet and find some ideas. After you've got that, you want to figure out the board shape. What is the kind of path that you're going to have on your board? Because you're going to be drawing this out. I've got a couple examples here, and I will just show you. So if you've ever played this game, it's called Quelf. It's kind of a spiral, so you could start here and go all the way around. That's one idea. If you ever played Risk, you got a world map, so you could do that instead. Just kind of draw your map and maybe split it up into areas like they did here. We also got one of my favorites, the Game of Life. That's always a classic. So it's kind of just a random path with some split-offs and some junctions and stuff like that. And then we got this big boy. Everybody loves Monopoly, even if you don't. Monopoly is a classic. And it's basically just a square with different spots all the way around it. So, those are just a couple examples. I've also created a little sheet with a bunch of all of these ideas. We're going to put it in your box, so if you're stuck for ideas, check that. You can always find one of those ideas and get that and go from there. So one last thing you want to figure out is a few of the rules of how the game's going to work. For example, if you're trying to be the first person to the end, then how do the players move? Is it 1 dice? Do they use 2? Are there special spaces that make certain things happen in the game? If you're using money in your game, how does the money work? Do they buy things? Do they have to land on certain spaces? There's lots of questions you can ask yourself, but you kind of want to have a main idea of how the gameplay is going to look. Now, these 4 elements, the theme, the goal, the board shape, and the rules, you don't have to do them in that order. You can go whatever order you want, but it's good to have these 4 main things mapped out in your mind at least before you move on to drawing, because you don't want to make too many changes if you have to do that later. So let me show you what I did. For my theme, I chose to do a Stillwood themed board game, and the goal of my game is to get the most tuck. So kind of like the Game of Life, where you're trying to collect the most money, except in this one, you're trying to collect tuck bucks. The shape is kind of like the Game of Life with a lot of random paths and kind of junctions, and I've chosen to put different colored blocks or spaces on it, and each space will do a different thing. So when I'm thinking of rules, I'm thinking when we roll this 1 dice, you go this many spaces, and if you land on a red one, you get a bad consequence. If you land on a blue one, you get a good consequence, like gain money, lose money, etc. So let me show you how I started my drawing process. When I chose mine, I chose to do my board kind of like the Game of Life, so let's just do this. Now this is just my template. I'm not actually going to use this exact one, but this is just to get a rough idea of what I want to put on my board before I start drawing. So maybe I choose this to be my starting and this to be my end space, and then because I'm doing it kind of like the Game of Life, you can do some intersections or like choose which space you go and then kind of curve like that, maybe some little offshoots so you can kind of again choose your path, and then you go something like that. So if this is what I like, I could draw another one if I didn't like it, or I can just take this and then draw it nicer on my board. All right, so now that you have your theme and all of that figured out, it's time to start drawing. So step 1, take a pencil and draw it out. Step 2, take a fine line pen and outline everything you've drawn. Step 3, take an eraser and erase any leftover pencil marks. And step 4, take your colors, color it all in. Now that you've finished drawing and coloring, you're going to want to go back and make sure you have all of your rules figured out. I know we made some before, but just tweak any that maybe need to be changed or make sure that everything makes sense. You might want to ask someone to read over it as well. Then, you're ready to go. Now it's time to make some popcorn, grab your family, and have a great game tonight.